Time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod. I'm your host, Josh, and today our co-host, Reid, joins us back on the show to talk about Vader Immortal Episode 3. We have some great in-depth conversation about Vader as a character and Anakin Skywalker and how this all ties up together with this VR trilogy that came out. There's some great connections to Revenge of the Sith. And from previous walkthroughs and discussions about this, the past two episodes, we found that with the recycled footage from Padme, they've managed to bring a lot of that back alive. So yeah, super cool. A lot of chat about that. And yeah, on the topic of video games, today was the release date for the new update and the new iteration of Battlefront 2. The Celebration Edition, I guess it is. You can pick that up and get every single skin unlocked right away. And the update makes them available to purchase through in-game points and currency for existing players. As well as Fallen Order is a thing and going strong. People love it. I've actually recently finished it, and we're going to talk about that at some point in the future on a future episode, so stay tuned for that. Anyhow, let's go and meet Reid.
Another happy landing.
All right, we're back. Welcome back, Reid.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Yeah, good. You?
Not too shabby.
Yeah, you just played. Well, you just played. What's it called? Vader Immortal.
Vader Immortal. I'm
blanking on it.
The whole reason we came here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, yeah, cool. How'd you like it?
Loved it. It was fun.
Yeah.
Quick, but like good.
Yeah, a good tie up for the trilogy of that was building over the last like three things, but we're getting around to this pretty late because we've actually like been at the round tables for a while, like doing
Yeah.
the Mandalorian round tables, but which have been good. But yeah, priorities. So yeah, got to get around to this at some point. We'll do Fallen Order at some point as well, but you're still playing through that one.
Yeah, not quite finished yet, but getting there.
Yeah,
the struggle's real, but we're gonna finish it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, what did you notice in this game that was actually? Should we just walk through it or like?
Yeah, sure. Let's just walk through it.
Okay.
I think
okay, I'll let you take it away because you like just played it. I was watching you on the TV, just streaming it, but yeah, I'll let you do this one.
Yeah. It was cool. I think it was definitely very different from the first two, which is like a cool change of pace. Because I mean, like right away, the most noticeable difference is just that it's mostly just action throughout the whole thing pretty much, which was really cool. Because in the first two, there was like a little bit of, I don't know if I can really call it platforming, if that makes sense. Because, like there's like some, like it wasn't like super difficult, but there's a little bit of like puzzles and stuff like that sort of. And you're like going through some sequences and stuff like that between like scenes or like short bits of action kind of, whereas this one, it was like just like consecutive combat. So I thought that was really cool because in both of the first two episodes or games or whatever, they kind of slowly introduce you to the combat mechanics of the game and stuff like that, which was great because in this third one, they just combined all of it. And they definitely like kind of slowly amped up like the difficulty of the combat and stuff like that throughout. Like it was very like steadily paced and forgiving. Because I mean, yeah, like we have it's been a while since we talked about the last episode of this, so yeah, I thought it was cool. How about you? What'd you think?
Oh yeah, no, it's I thought it was awesome. Like it's the last part when you encounter Vader at the very end, like at the top of the castle.
Oh,
it's just like such a good climax.
That was
like,
an awesome,
yeah. So that and getting the rest of that Padme conversation, that recycled footage and audio that they used from episode 3.
Yeah.
Super cool to see that come back, and you do get to fight Vader. It's a little awkward. Like the lightsaber fight's not exactly up to epic proportion.
No, yeah, because it's you're only so limited by my feeble skills.
Well, I think they also because you did take a few hits, but they also have to make it to the point where it's easy enough for somebody who's played the last 2.5 or the 3 games to kind of grip, get a grip on I have to block here, there.
Exactly. Yeah, there was a few times I was I thought for sure I was gonna die because there was there would be groups of stormtroopers shooting at me all at once, and I would block maybe a few enough to still kill all of them and stuff that, but I would take some hits and I was like, man, when am I gonna did I not die yet? Am I gonna die soon? Where's my health at and blah blah. But it was just forgiving enough to get me through it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't just
one thing about this game for sure, just you don't get the health bar, you don't get any. Yeah, it's very
there's no HUD.
Yeah, it's very story driven.
Nothing.
Nothing that makes you feel like you're in a game. That there's no redos, no do overs. It's 100% just you are this character. If you take the hit, you see it, and you feel it. The vibration happens and everything. The things go red, but you don't have a second life kind of thing. It gives you the
you're not I mean, we were just talking about in Jedi Fallen in Jedi Fallen Order a little bit where some of those enemies that you fight you're dying, or at least for me, I was dying and having to replay it over and over again or restart over and over again, and it was just painful, whereas this, they don't it's definitely, the focus is the story. It's not getting you into complex game mechanics and stuff like that. It's introducing you to some cool a cool way to play through the game and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that made it fun and immersive while you're experiencing the story and stuff like that, which is the feature of the game is the story, which was fun.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot of really, well, actually, first off, just to overhaul the story really quickly, it picks off right where the second one ended, which is when you kill the Rancor and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The priestess tells you have an army of droids now at your disposal now that you have the sword, and that army that we saw earlier in the second episode, you're actually able to direct their fire when stormtroopers come on floating speeders into the thing. You had some fun with that.
I was so excited when that scene happened. I was so ready. I was like, yes, give me this power to command legions and lead them to glory.
Yeah.
I was slightly disappointed when
the transfer of power happened.
Yeah, the transfer of power happened. I was like, okay, I guess for the sake of the game, I understand. There's other game mechanics they want to focus on. And,
and I love how the droid acknowledges that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
She's we did have an army. So that's a nice little fling.
That was, yeah.
You know what the droid reminds me of is, did you ever watch Solo?
Yep.
Yeah, she reminds me of that droid for some reason.
Yes. Yeah,
what's her name again?
I don't remember her name, but
L3.
I just the main thing I remember is when she died, how upset Lando Calrissian was. He was like, no! I was like, dude, you ain't Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
it's not like you just found out.
Yeah, he had an intense relationship with his droid there.
Definitely.
But yeah, I know the character of this droid really reminds me of L3. And all the witty stuff that she has to say.
All the wit and sarcasm for sure. Yeah.
The speeder sequence, which happens after which you are on, that one Mustafarian and L3 and yourself are standing on the skiff or whatever, and you're going through the catacombs beneath Vader's castle,
the lava tunnels.
Yeah, the lava tunnels. Yeah, and then you're in pursuit basically because you have stormtroopers you have to fight off and deflect bullets with. I noticed that in that entire game you didn't once use the Force.
Yeah, it just didn't. I realized it after we kind of like sat down to talk about this a bit. I was like, you know what? I really didn't use the Force at all until the very end of the game, because I just didn't think about it. Because I think part of that is because I just came off of playing Jedi Fallen Order.
Just all about the lightsaber combat.
And it's just, there's not that, like, that's the only thing you can do in Jedi Fallen Order, but like it's just, that was just my focus is like, I have this lightsaber, deflect the shots. Now, if I were to play through it again, I would definitely be experimenting. Because I think last time when we talked about episode 2, we were talking about like how I was starting to have fun with the Force mechanics, because the second episode really focused on that, because that was like when you learn to use the Force. And now I feel like such an idiot.
You brought it up last time as well, like things that we wanted to see for the third one. You brought it up, I think, that you wanted to see other forms of battle happening, like with a blaster and stuff like that.
Yep.
If you did use the Force on those stormtroopers when you killed them, you could have Force pulled the blaster to your hand, your free hand. And shot with the blasters. And
goodness.
They last about 4 or 5 rounds, and then they're over with, and you have to discard the blaster. You just kill another trooper, and that's why all the blasters were flying up in the air whenever you kill the stormtrooper, because you could Force pull it and then use it against the other guys.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I noticed you didn't do that, and I said it like maybe twice through the game, but maybe the audio was too loud for you to hear, and then I was like, no, I'll just wait. After the second time, I'm like, I don't want to push it too hard. Like, I'll just see if he figures it out. And you didn't end up using that tactic. But you get so comfortable using the lightsaber,
exactly,
and then you just don't really care.
Yeah, there just wasn't anything like, because I think in episode 2 they just put you through so many sequences, and like where there was just like a clear, blatant use of the Force. Yeah, that I just wasn't even like thinking about it, because like I turned that lightsaber on and I'm like, okay, I can deflect the blaster bolts with the lightsaber and kill them that way, and that's literally how I got through all of that. Was killing them with the like deflected blaster bolts and stuff like that. And some parts were like tricky when there would start to be a lot of them, and I'd start taking hits because there was just so many firing at once. Like I couldn't move fast enough. But now that I know that, like, oh my gosh, I missed out on so much.
Yeah, well, it happens. But,
that's okay. Yeah. So did you played around with that then?
I did. Yeah. I actually like had a good time, even pulling the trooper towards me and then stabbing him through the chest.
Dude.
Yeah. So there was some cool stuff. You could also like chuck them off of the platforms that they're the skiffs that they're standing on. Or, so you can Force pull them towards you. You can grab them and like shove them off. You can kind of like drag them off, I guess. It's weird because my initial instinct, and I hope for future games that they improve this if it ever becomes a thing, but my instant reaction with using the Force is to Force push. Like that was what I wanted to do so many times when I was using the Force, and it's something you actually can't do. Like you have to kind of grab it first, and then like if you are pushing it, you can kind of push forward, and it sometimes works. But the more effective way is to pull towards you. That's something I really wanted to see is them add the ability to push things away. And I don't know, maybe they can have it so that the other hand is just always active with the Force or something. I don't really know, but that's my instinct, is to just, if I see a bunch of troopers, boom, I just want to like shove my arm forward and then watch them fly. So it was a little awkward at times for me to kind of like go, okay, one at a time, pull them towards me, slice, pull the next one towards me, slice, pull the next one towards me, slice,
Well, I think in episode 2, I remember like as you like later on when I was using the like more and more of the Force techniques, I remember like starting to grab more than one of them at once, because I was like starting to get that vibe. I was just like, man, I just want to like throw these guys around. Like I was grabbing more than one and throwing 2 at the same time or something like that, I think, from what I remember. So that'd be cool progression to see.
It's kind of a missed opportunity to have that. But anyway, this entire third part, like just on a side note, it kind of felt a little rushed.
Definitely.
Like compared to the other two. And one thing I would have loved to have seen is for them to add like a free play explore Vader's castle kind of thing, because at the beginning, which I actually missed talking about this, when you initially went into that elevator to go back up a few levels from when you defeated the Rancor and stuff.
Yeah.
You have to fix the lift with the Force by putting those crystals in the bottom of the platform.
Yeah.
But once you're on the platform, you see it goes through multiple levels that you were in previous episodes. So like those maps are all still there. Like in the game, there's still virtual spaces that you could have gone back to theoretically.
Pretty much.
It would have been really cool to have a free roam ability just to like
that would
explore what you've seen, explore maybe even a little more. They could have, it was a missed opportunity, or they could have just Easter eggs.
They could have just staged it where like, I mean, like they didn't have to force you to go through everything that you went through to get there in the first place, but they could have backtracked you a little bit. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's some people who aren't always fans of that in games and stuff like that, but I don't mind doing that because it's like, you know, if they like put like some new stuff in there or like some new enemies to fight and stuff, because we know like, you know, the Imperials are following us down there. That would have been fun. I would have loved to fight through that.
Well, and if you go through the lightsaber dojo modes, there are enemies that pop up in there but have not shown up in the story modes. So it's kind of cool, you know, and also a missed opportunity to have like not used those at all either. But yeah, it would be cool eventually to maybe have some sort of update where it can consecutively take you through each game, like if you have them all. Like if you own them all, really just like maybe like a 2-minute loading thing and then jumps into the next episode and keeps going. Like that would be pretty
really
awesome.
Smart.
But like you had a wow moment when you kind of exited the catacombs and saw Vader's castle with the big beam going.
That was just so cool. Yeah, such a cool visual. Like I was like looking around, I was kind of like, what's that bright light? Oh, that's a big bright light. And I was like, that does not look cool. Like they definitely didn't like, you know, skimp on the visuals for the game, which is like awesome. Like it was just so cool because like I really haven't played like too many VR games. Like I played a few of your VR games and stuff like that. So it's just such a cool like experience really to be able to like experience a game in that way that you can like look up and just like be in awe of this like huge
100% just
set piece and stuff like that.
Like, you really feel like the expanse of the world when you get there. If you ever go down to California again to do the one that we talked about at one point, Secrets of the Empire by the Void.
Okay,
it's you know, it gives you that feeling as well for sure, because you also like you wear the computer and you wear a headset. It's like a virtual reality within. They call it hyper reality.
Right.
It's almost like a 4D movie where you like feel things as well. So
wow.
the on the skiff when you were flying towards the castle not only would it be better resolution and like, you know, more, you wouldn't be holding controllers. It's all hand track as well.
Oh,
and guns that you pick up are physically there.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, it's awesome. But
that is so cool.
But like you would have felt the heat from the Mustafar lava beneath you. You would have felt the wind blowing against your skin. Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah. So like, just for you, like seeing the wow factor of like this, you know, like the exterior of the castle and everything. We've only seen that once before in the first episode when you were taken in by the TIE fighters. But yeah, to see it again from the outside and then having this like massive, terrifying looking beam going up in the sky.
Yeah.
Like this is like this moment of like, whoa, like.
Yeah, I thought it was I was like gonna be like kind of like, okay, we're gonna like try to intercept and stop Vader from doing this, and it was like, nope, Vader's already like in the process.
Yeah, in the process,
in the middle of doing this, and like, yeah, I think that tied in a little bit too, like with how like rushed the game was, because like the story was still there and it was good, but like it really skimped on the story in order to get you to that last. Kind of bit. It was just kind of like, all right, battle. Oh, okay, and then it's like
it felt very roller coastery. You know,
very much. It was just kind of like one. Like, I mean, the battles were really cool. It was fun to do, and now in hindsight, I'm really disappointed I didn't like use the Force more and like play around with that. But it was just like, it was just pretty much going through that roller coaster to get to the end, or like the, you know, the big loop or whatever. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Because like once you're in the castle, it felt very on the rails to me when you have to play around with that TIE fighter in the hangar bay.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, okay, press these buttons, and then it's like, oh, press the ones with the arrows on them. They all have arrows on them. It's like, okay, well, it's like, I know that whatever I press, the next thing's gonna happen. So
I started playing, like pushing buttons a little bit, and I was like, how does this work? And then eventually you push on the last one, it's just kind of like, no matter what you push, it's gonna.
Like it would have been cool for them to just have like that choice of like, okay, should we press this button to open that door or press this button to open that door? It doesn't even need to be a huge addition to the game. Just like make it a choice for people to go down one hallway or the other hallway.
Yeah, I think that's where like your suggestion of making it like at least a little bit of an open world game.
Yeah, like some sort of free
really well. Because then you can like go through those sections and be like, hey, do I want to go through just giving people the option of going through that door or that door, or like trying to do like drop this TIE fighter, or trying to find some other way to open up the door or whatever,
or distract the troopers or whatever.
Exactly.
Like blow something up instead of dropping a TIE fighter.
It doesn't need to be like a huge open world map, because I mean we were just like in their hangar.
No, it doesn't need to be huge, just like something small, like 2 additional hallways, some extra stuff to do. Like the steps would be different, but at least have that alternate course. If people choose to use it.
And that was another thing too. I definitely felt like I think that like part of that is just because like most of this episode was like battle sequences and stuff, but there was definitely a lot less like interaction taking place compared to the last ones. Because I mean like that was one of like the cool fun things about like the first 2 episodes, from what I remember, is just like like you're interacting with like the environment,
and you're also discovering a lot of new things too.
Exactly.
Like, not only do you have Vader teaching you stuff, but in the first one, like you kind of get the sense of exploration, even though it's on the rails. Like, nobody knows that you're sneaking around because you just escaped.
Yeah.
So like you get the feeling of like, oh, hey, and now I get to eavesdrop on Vader's conversation. Who's that? Like, what's that thing? There's a lot of like, more of a exploration, free roam kind of like interest. And this one, it was just very guided, very like, okay, let's, hit point A, B, C, D. And then
it was literally like you're going and stopping at checkpoints throughout like so many of those sequences, right? Where just like, okay, like you're stopping few waves of stormtroopers and stuff like that, and you're fighting them off and stuff, and then you go to the next bit, and then you got to stop and wait again, fight off that next wave of stormtroopers, and that was like so many of the sections you were going through it doing that, and so it's kind of like
exactly,
it's all right.
So then once you drop the TIE, the one door, you open the one door, and your droid basically pushes Admiral Carius off the edge of the walkway.
That was like
there you go. The most the opposite of the anti-clock.
That sums up so well like how it rushed, because like it was still like a good game, and it was funny when that happened, but it was just like literally it's just like, I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to fight. Oh no.
Yeah, like there he goes. Yeah, it's like there's one of the villains that was built up over the last 3 missions. Just like your droid just pushes him off the edge. It's all right, cool. Like there it goes.
Okay, that was it. And then you had they brought it back a little bit with like the on the rails bit, but I was kind of like, okay, I know where this is going.
Yeah, and once you get through all those stormtroopers on the walkways, on the platforms, then it's kind of cool. Like you get to throw some stuff, like some explosives. Did you do that?
No, I didn't do any of that.
Oh man,
blocked. I feel so dumb now.
There was a little crate that opened up, and there was some explosives you could like chuck at the troopers or down into the depths of the war, which it would have done nothing because those are all just little sprites, I think. But
pretty much.
Again, like. Not necessary. It's just it was like one of those things, and that's the one thing about this game. It's like all the pieces were there. It's like you had the choice to use these explosives. You had the choice to use the Force. Like why not just make a couple hallways that you can go down and choose to do certain things? Like all the bricks to make that happen are there. Yeah. And like even just pushing buttons to make something happen. It's like you can just have an alternate set of things to do that eventually lead you to the same end goal, but things just happen differently along the way.
Yeah, just different paths through like the same area or whatever. Like in that hangar, like because like you get to the part where like you get onto the mounted turret or whatever, and so that would have been a much like cooler experience if like maybe you were like walking on one of the catwalks and like you saw that
Yeah, you have
off
to
the
choose
walk
to go up
size
there.
and
Yeah.
like, oh, you could choose to go up there, or you could choose to go over to maybe where there's some thermal detonators,
Yeah,
or
for sure. Yeah.
some other kind of thing you can mess around with. And so that would have been like cool to have that choice. I mean, it was still like, it was okay to get on the turret. Like it was a cool thing to be able to interact with.
Mhm.
I think that'd be fun to be able to. I don't know if they like do any other different games or later on if they like can kind of continue with this type of story or this particular storyline. It'd be cool to be able to interact with more kind of weapons and stuff like that. Like I'd like to, if they do a later game, I'd like to see more stuff like inside the ship. I think they could do a lot more with that. Because like
for sure.
you don't have to do a ton of moving around, and you'd be like focusing on like, you know, like the control surfaces and like what's going on visually in front of you and stuff. But yeah.
And you know, and these are, I mean, they're $10 episodic games, right? So like it's not like they did put a lot of time into it. I mean,
No.
you can see that the technology has been pushed far so that they can pump out these episodes the way that they do. But so the infrastructure is there. I think if they spent just a little more time though, they could have something pretty awesome.
They could make a really, really cool experience.
Yeah, especially like when you are in the ship and you can do that exploration. Even have like a holo map, like where do you want to go in the galaxy? You know, have a couple planets, maybe have a few like short range locations that you can go to on those planets that, you know, smaller-ish maps, but like big enough that you get the sense of like, whoa, like I spent an hour in this game. I've seen 1 out of 3 locations on this planet. There's 3 planets to explore. Like, you know, that would be right there. Like if there's enough to do and you get maybe 20 hours of gameplay out of this, like that's like a AAA rated game right there.
Pretty much.
Almost,
Oh yeah.
So
literally.
Like
I've played AAA games like half that time. Like 10 or 12 hours I've played like $80 or $90.
On Fallen Order, I ended up switching later on to story mode halfway through, but my accumulated time on that is 21 hours. And that's just me. That's me exploring and playing the story at the same time. Like I'm conveniently exploring if I'm heading a certain direction or whatever.
If you happen to see it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if I see a crate way over there, I'll try and get it and then come back and go on the route and whatever and save the rest of exploration for later on. But you know, it's still kind of like AAA rated game. You know, only under 20 hours to beat it out. And everyone loves it. It's not considered a short game.
No,
you know, it's considered like full game.
That's kind of the standard for like a story based like single player game nowadays.
Yeah, really. Exactly. So and like for something in VR like this, it's like the potential is there. Totally.
Oh yeah, because I mean, I enjoyed all 3 of these episodes, and like the mechanics that they had and stuff like that were super basic, but it was still in VR, like having that experience and all those mechanics. Like they had super basic platforming, super basic combat.
Yeah.
The story was like like pretty like short, all said and done, but it was still really cool. Because I mean, maybe like
as a trilogy,
2.5
it's
hours.
Like as a trilogy as a whole, like you could do 2.5 to 3 hours of like bashing out the whole thing. If you really took your time, if each one is an hour, it could be a solid 3 hours or more. But I mean, you know, like with the infrastructure that they have, like they could have made it so much bigger, right? So that's something I'm looking forward to if they ever do make another VR game, which I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll do it.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
They wouldn't bother with this whole ordeal if it wasn't to, you know, push technology further in that department. But
100%. Yeah.
You know, that's what ILMX Labs is all about. But yeah, let's push on with the story here. So you mentioned the turret. You know, you take down the TIE fighter, which is being piloted by the admiral who comes back.
Just got pushed over the edge.
So you get to fight the TIE fighter. Very reminiscent of like that cut shot from Rogue One where Jyn Erso was like walking along the. He was in the trailer.
Into the platform.
Yeah,
I remember that.
In the trailer, they had like a TIE fighter that zoomed up right in front of her.
Yeah,
and then they cut that out. Yeah, but I thought that was actually like really reminiscent where like, you know, the admiral shows up in a TIE fighter and you have to face down a TIE fighter. I was like, wow, okay, this is interesting. That TIE fighter was not easy to fight.
No, yeah, it was like at first it wasn't too bad, and then as it started, I found when things or like enemies got really close to you, it got a lot more difficult because your reaction time is like cut in half basically.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so yeah, it definitely got a lot more difficult. I was taking a lot of hits. I still managed to get through it. but it was like I didn't even use the Force at all. I don't know if did you try
very
it all?
rarely use the Force. I was actually using the Force quite a bit, especially down in the catacombs. I was using it a lot, but you know, once you do take out that tie and the ATSD down in the ground battle and stuff like that, what happens next? The priestess shows up and she guides you up the elevator.
Yeah,
and this is when like the cool stuff starts to happen. She has a few things to say, and then the life is basically sucked out of her by this orb.
I was like, wow, wow, this is no joke. Like this thing is sucking the life out of
and it starts sucking the life out of you too. Yeah, and once you start walking over and you see Vader like talking to Padme in this rock again, and you see again more footage and audio from Revenge of the Sith about Padme telling him that what did she say? Is something about how she talked about the baby, and or about how she loves him or something. Yep. I forget exactly the lines, but he notices you. You know, you have the fight. Yeah. And then towards the end of the fight, the ghost of Lady Corvex's husband shows up and freezes time before Vader's about to strike you down. And you end up force pulling the light sword towards you, stabbing the Bright Star, destroying the whole contraption, and Vader loses any chance of recovering Padme. But I was actually really kind of like optimistically freaking out a little bit, because when this whole fight is happening and he's force choking you and pushing you all over the place and whatever, you do kind of start to see Padme take formation in like this glowing blue kind of particle
apparition
form. Like out next to the rock, like it's building slowly. She's materializing. Materializing. Exactly. That's the right word. So but there's also this sadness about it, because you know that even though he brings her back, she's not going to be like she was. She's going to be this trapped between life and death sort of thing. It actually, to me, this entire thing, it came full circle, but it actually really reminded me of the Resurrection Stone from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, because the same exact thing happens. Do you watch Harry Potter?
I've watched all the movies at one point, but that was like a while ago.
Okay, so I'll recap it for you then. So the Deathly Hallows are the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Cloak of Invisibility. Okay. And the tale from the Beatles of Bard book that Hermione gets in Dumbledore's will. She reads the story, one of the stories in that book, and it's about the three wizards that were given these gifts by death, basically. Yeah. So these three wizards come to a ravine or whatever, and death kind of greets them, and after they together use their powers to formulate a bridge out of trees, tree roots and everything. Yeah. And death kind of greets them and goes like, hey, most people fall in and die, and I claim their life kind of thing, but I want to reward you with a gift. And because, you've basically just escaped my trap. And so one of them gets the wand, one of them gets the stone, one of them gets the cloak. And the only wise one is the guy with the cloak, so that death doesn't find him again, and he passes it on to his descendants. The one with the wand, though, is kind of like, hungry for power, and people kill him to get the wand, and so on and so forth, and it goes down in history. The stone, however, the man who wanted the stone, he's essentially mourning the loss of his loved ones, especially after his wife. Yeah. And the purpose of the stone was that he would be able to bring her back. And when he uses the stone, she comes back, but not physically. Like, she's almost like a ghost. And he can't touch her or be with her, Yeah. And so when you finally get the moment in the movie where Harry finds the Resurrection Stone hidden in the golden snitch that Dumbledore gives him in the will, he basically wishes for his family and his friends to come back to life before he faces Voldemort for the last time. Yeah. Which ends up being the second last time in the movie. Yeah. But you see Sirius Black, his parents, return. Who else is there? There's a few, Lupin, Remus Lupin. They all kind of show up around him in a circle, and when he goes out to touch his mother's hand, you know, he kind of like pauses because like he's like, whoa, she's there, and then he reaches out to grab her hand and realizes that his hand passes through her.
Oh.
And in actual fact, the resurrection stone doesn't bring them back to what, you know, what the rock makes it sound like. You know, when people think resurrection, it's like, hey, you're coming back from the dead, back to life.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, it's a half-life. It's not a full life. It's not fully bringing back somebody. It's only bringing back like the memory or the spirit or like the consciousness or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how Star Wars like maintained that philosophy, because in Harry Potter, like it's a world of magic. It's a world of like so many possibilities. Yeah. But like one rule that J.K. Rowling set out is like nobody comes back to life. Unless of course you split a part of your soul and make a Horcrux, then your spirit's still alive and you could technically be resurrected, whatever. But yeah, like the law is basically, you know, nobody just comes back to life. Yeah. Like that. And I like how StarArs did that as well. Like as the weird things that they do, you know, which is, I like the weird things that they do, like the mystical things, some of the arts like in the Clone Wars and all this and that, even like Jedi transforming into the Force, they're never fully back, you know, like they're not physically there really, because they're kind of a ghost and a spirit. And so like I've always liked the fact that like this is nothing new. Bringing back dead people is nothing new to Star Wars. Like this is a thing that was
it's a consistent
in the first
theme.
Since 1977 when we heard Ben in Luke's head when he blows up the Death Star. Like it's a consistent theme 100%. And you know, this is just another way though that they're telling that story, and it's just like Vader trying to bring back his wife physically though. And he thinks he can do it, but it's even though she might take some sort of physical form, it's like a cursed form, and it's not it's not something he would be happy with anyways. This was definitely like a really good like transitional continuation from Revenge of the Sith, because it really does, because I mean at the end of Revenge of the Sith, you know, is that iconic scene where Vader's like in absolute misery because, you know, Padme's died and stuff like that. And, Sidious broke the news to him, or Palpatine, and he's pretty much in the same just like desperate and miserable state where he's willing to do just about anything to get her back. He's willing to sacrifice this planet, and then he mentions he's willing to go on to other worlds to he's willing to do anything to bring back Padme. But this is so good because like not for in-story purposes, but like it's so good, like it enriches his character so much, because you know, so many people, if you don't watch Clone Wars, which I'm sure you will at some point, but like if you don't watch Clone Wars, you really miss a lot of the transition between Anakin as this chipper, happy young boy, between him and then his kind of moody apprenticeship days, to him just flipping on the Jedi with like this bad dream about his wife. You know, there's a bit of a disconnect there, because it's almost like it almost seems too artificial for one person to go to absolute lengths to protect the one that they love. It's not such a foreign thought when you think about it that way, but when people watch the movie, a lot of it tends to get overlooked quite a bit. A lot of people I've heard give reason to be like, okay, why is Anakin turning to the dark side so quickly? Like, you know, is there more than just Padme that's going on here? And there is, but even as its own reason for him to turn to the dark side because of the loss of his wife, he's already lost so much in what we've seen. He's lost his mother, and he's gone through a lot with the Clone War and all that. Speaking of the Clone Wars, like if you think about it, right, because there's Attack of the Clones when we first start to see him like become immersed in like the role of like a Jedi and stuff like that as Obi-Wan's apprentice. But then the gap between Attack of the Clones and then Revenge of the Sith, like that's like the beginning and then the end of the Clone Wars. And so there's an entire like 3 generation of of war that he's experienced and stuff like that that we don't get to see. And I mean, like, there's no way like 3 like nonstop years of war doesn't affect someone in some way, shape, or form. And 100%. So like his like desperation and like volatility and like trying to protect Padme and stuff like that is like well, it's also like, it begs the question, like if you ask just the question yourself, you know, the person that you love like with your whole heart, and
Exactly,
and for
yeah.
him, the only person that he can love, the
Yeah.
only person that he has a shared relationship with, the only person he can be personable with,
Yep.
and he's having these dreams similar to how he had dreams about his mother, very
Exactly.
likely that they could happen in his reality, and he's fearing that she'll die,
yeah.
and like I can totally buy into the fact he will do anything
Oh yeah.
that he can to help to keep her from dying, right?
Exactly.
And
yeah.
and it's so easy to buy that, for me at least. Like a lot of people don't buy that. A lot of people are like, whoa, how did he just flip so badly? Like he's going, one moment he's with the Jedi, the next moment he's killing children. Like what the heck is going on here? But it's like, to really process it, it's like it's not so far-fetched. Like
No.
he's willing to go to absolute lengths to save the one that he loves, and even in the costume, even behind the mask, he's willing to rip worlds apart with this thing,
Yeah.
to bring her back from the dead. And it just adds so much continuity from Revenge of the Sith into this trilogy. And a lot of people, like, you don't see that a lot with Vader, because a lot of people have a disconnect between Anakin and Vader. But for me, like, there's like, it's the same guy. It's the same character. There's nothing different about Vader than there is with Anakin. Anakin is just the younger, non-evil version. We see evil Anakin, which is, he's Darth Vader at that point. But it's a bit of a disconnect when you see him as Anakin as a person, and then Vader all serious and stern and stiff in the suit, right?
Oh, definitely.
This kind of blends the two together and makes it one.
Yeah, that was what was so cool about this game, because I mean, if you think about the Star Wars saga, right? Because from Revenge of the Sith, end of Revenge of the Sith, he becomes Darth Vader, but he's like, in like total misery, and there's like a huge period of time that takes place between Revenge of the Sith and then New Hope. And in New Hope, he's like this all-powerful Lord, like he's Lord Vader.
Yeah,
like he's this all-powerful like figure within the Empire and stuff like that. And so here, like he's got his kind of own little like warlord situation going on, really, like where he's like exerting himself over Mustafar and stuff like that, and like decimating their populate, or like attempting to decimate their world. But he's like he hasn't gone big league yet, where he's like, scouring across the galaxy with an Imperial fleet. He's got like,
he's still got personal issues to deal with, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you get the feeling that this is actually, a little earlier on, before Rogue One takes place. I don't know by how many years. I would safely put this like at the halfway point, that it could be maybe 8 to 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. Possibly, because Vader's fortress does make an appearance in Rogue One, which is right before New Hope, but it's still there, it's still standing. And at this point, been probably patched up, because in this game it really ruins the castle quite a bit. At the very end there,
trash.
So but also in Secrets of the Empire. That also is canon hyper reality VR experience. That story also takes place before, I think it's before Rogue One as well. And I forget exactly where it's placed. But yeah, it's a really cool connection between Revenge of the Sith and the Vader character that we're introduced to in A New Hope, that is all kind of about business at this point. Less personal issues until we get to the point of him realizing that Luke is his son.
Yes.
And then we're brought back to that kind of deeper conflict of interest with Anakin, who's, longing to be with his son and rule with him and destroy the Emperor because he doesn't need him anymore.
Yeah.
And that's huge, because Vader's the longest, most loyal apprentice that the Emperor ever has. And even though he puts him through trials throughout the comic books and stuff like that, he's faced trials that the Emperor's thrown at him before to test him.
Mm-hmm.
He still pulls through every single time. And it goes all the way up till Return of the Jedi. And I think that's what makes it even more admirable of his sacrifice at the very end of the movie, when he finally gives up his life as Vader for his son, so that he can live. But yeah, there's like this whole trilogy of episodes is like such a good blend between mixing like those personable Anakin issues with the mask that we know as Vader, who we think has no personal issues. We associate the mask with this robot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like you were just saying, right? Like it helps. I think it definitely helps blend it in so much more with like the original trilogy as well, because it like plays into the progression of his character so much more. Like it plays into what Luke really means to him. Because I mean, like he tells Luke like, "Oh, I'm your father" and stuff like that, and then he sacrifices himself for him. And so I think like this really is like, you know, the fact that he's ready to sacrifice a planet or potentially multiple planets just so he can bring Padme back in whatever way, shape, or form that is really a testament to how important like his relationship with her was. And then like once that starts to like kind of settle in for him between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, that, you know, Luke is his son or whatever, and that like he's like, you know, his mother was Padme and stuff like that. I think that really like definitely ties into that and like what pushes him over the edge to like go.
This also has a lot to say about, you know, the way he was raised, the Jedi, like, you know, having a code and not being able to have relationships and stuff like that. It really leads up to him, you know, once we see him give up everything for his son. Kind of thing. It's like, and then the next thing we see is he's a Force ghost. It's like, well, only the Jedi have so far, I guess, Jedi that we've known have become Force ghosts. Like, how is this possible? Like, in that one moment that he gave up, you know, everything for his son. Was it a selfish reason of being like, hey, this is my son. I'm going to do absolutely everything that I can to, you know, is it another self-conflict? Like, would basically the same train of thought of him willing to sacrifice multiple planets to bring back Padme? Is it the same reasoning and you know, logic? Is it the same logic behind and him willing to give up the Emperor for Luke? Is it the same kind of like, I don't want to call it like selfish, but is it the same inward thought of being attached to something that leads him there, or is he really redeemed? But you know, and he does say, you know, tell your sister you were right. So like you get the sense like, okay, he is redeemed, but I've always wondered how much of that redemption is motivated by, you know, the loss of his son over realizing like what evil he's come to do in his past life.
Because I mean, if you think about it, right, like, because that's a huge amount of time where he's had to like suppress like all ties to like his relationship with the Jedi.
Exactly.
And like, I mean, he lost Padme and stuff like that. And even here, you know, he's just about to reach that point where he gets her, like can grasp her again, but then he loses that. So, I mean, the amount of time that he has to bury that and force that down and stuff like that. 'Cause I mean, Luke, you know, consistently says like, "There's good in you. I feel it." So it's in there.
It's in there somewhere.
But he's just buried it so heavily under all the other stuff he's had to deal with the Empire and stuff like that. Like
even Padme, when she's dying on in birth, you know, because of, you know, the shock and like the basically just a broken heart. You know, like it's killing her, and you know, you know, she says to Obi-Wan before she dies, she says like, Obi-Wan, like there's good in him. Like I know there's still good in him. So so like it's definitely like
he's just so confused and like really misguided. Like he's just so confused and misguided
by his personal feelings.
Because he's trying to do the right thing, but he's just.
And I feel like he keeps digging himself a hole because he honestly believes. Afterwards, I think that like the dark side is the only way. He's now on this path, and he looks forward, and I think like he personally believes, you know, that this is where I'm supposed to be, kind of thing, and you know, and it really resonates through these episodes as well, because you know he's using the by all means necessary to bring his loved ones back. So like, as a Jedi and with the code that they would stand by, they would never approve of something like that.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, like,
there's other reasons for him to stay on this path as well.
Definitely. I mean, like, really, right from the beginning, like Anakin as a character, even right from, everyone's favorite, the Phantom Menace, like he's always been a very like I'm not sure if these are the right words, but like foolhardy and even like irrational and just like almost like not quite an adrenaline junkie. That's maybe not the right word, but he's just really like, he'll just like throw himself into a situation, and that just plays it through this. I mean, in this episode, like that.
You see that in the Clone Wars quite a bit, where he's very kind of, what's the word? I know what you're trying to say. Yeah. Like, he basically throws him into a situation without thinking, or saying something without thinking.
Yeah, he's very foolhardy and like irrational to a point. Like, and you see that through all of the original trilogy and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's kind of cool because we see that again in this episode of Vader Immortal. Because I mean, the Lady Korvax's husband, like one of the moments that he like materializes, kind of, he just blatantly is like mocking Vader's ignorance. Yeah. Over like what he hopes to do. He like just so like, he doesn't even dive that deeply into it or anything like that. He's he's so desperate and like ignorant of what's going on. Like he just blows over it, like basically chastises him for being an idiot and like refocuses on what you're trying to do. So if that really shows through just how like he's trying to, like, he's well-meaning, but he's just he's so like foolhardy and just irrational that he's just going like barreling through it in just like the most obnoxious, like straightforward way possible.
It's there's definitely like he's such a, when you really start to think about his character, he is such a complex character. Like there's so much to Anakin. I mean relatable. the whole original saga. Yeah, like it's his story. Like honestly, he owns it, and like it's all about the rise, fall, and redemption of Anakin Skywalker, and he's so relatable as a character. Like it's ironic because you look at the biggest baddie in the galaxy and go like, what's relatable to him? But there's a lot going on down there. And the entire time that he's wearing this suit and tearing apart those rebels, trying to get the plans in Rogue One, and just every dark deed moment that he's had, it's so foreign to think like there's still good in that guy. Like there's still something down there about the boy who was willing to give up everything for a couple of strangers who were stranded on his planet as a slave boy, willing to risk his life in a race to win them the parts they need. Like there's something so pure about that moment as a boy. And to know that exists in this monster is quite a Beauty and the Beast moment. Oh, definitely. It's this very, very like, it's this very true to life thing where it's, you can, look at like a serial killer or a murderer and think like, hey, like Jesus loves this person too. Like,
oh yeah. Well, dude, that reminds me, actually, I was just about to say, that reminds me about the story of, Saul or Paul or whatever, right? Where he's like literally like prosecuting or persecuting like Christians and stuff like that, and then he gets flipped around like completely.
And there's still some humanity, there's still some good, some little seed of good down there that he can be changed, right? Yeah. And that's 100% Darth Vader, like where we've seen the love that he's capable of, so much so that he's willing to go to lengths to protect them. And I think like, it really puts power into what Yoda says about having attachments and about the Jedi code of like them standing on the side of the fence and saying like, no, we're not going to be attached to things because we're not going to give into that corruption if anything ever happens. It's basically just a big blockade for them to avoid any temptation, any greed, any anything that would push them to do anything selfish.
And compromise their like morals and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Because like thinking about it, right? Because like the Jedis they're willing to put their lives on the line and stuff like that for like the galaxy, really. Yeah. And then like when they have like personal relationships and stuff like that, then there starts
The
becoming
priorities
the
shift.
battle. Yeah, the priorities and like they have to start thinking about priorities and compromises and stuff, which is literally what happened to him, right? He started compromising on his responsibilities as a Jedi in order to like to facilitate his like life and relationship with Padme and stuff like that. And Sidious took advantage of that, and
for sure.
He became what he was.
Yeah, it's like, you know, if the country ever went to war, there's people who would go to war for the country, and then there's people who would go to war because of their family.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like, there's with the Jedi Code, it's a really tough thing because, and you know, and Qui-Gon even tells Anakin before he takes him along, he says like, you know, the life of a Jedi is not an easy path. Like,
No. Yeah.
you know, like it's a hard, even if you succeed at it, it's a hard life, he says. And then Anakin's like, but I want to do it. And, you know, and it's like this 9-year-old kid. It's like, okay. Well.
And that, you know what, that just again plays into that, his like directness and foolhardiness is because he just wants to go in and do it.
Go for it.
Just wants to go for it.
Yeah. And you know, I think you'll really, once you start watching Clone Wars, you'll really, really recognize that there's so many things that he does that's like, did you think about that first?
Yeah, exactly.
and it's like, nope.
No.
And there's one of the clones makes a comment about it in if you watch it chronologically. Yeah, this the very, very first episode in the whole series. It's called Cat and Mouse, and one of the clones, Anakin sent basically on a relief mission, provide aid to Christophsis, to the people that are being oppressed by a separatist blockade. They don't have enough supplies. They're supposed to send Anakin in this ship with an invisibility cloak down to the surface of the planet and provide relief aid to the Republic outpost there and people and whatever.
Yeah.
But on the way down, you know, the Republic fleet that's trying to break through the blockade gets more desperate, and Anakin basically flips on Obi-Wan and says, okay, we're going to have to take this guy out, this ship, this blockade, because there's no way that we can continue on like this unless he's taken care of. And Obi-Wan protests. He's like, you know, Anakin, your job is to get down there and deliver your stuff. Do as I say, do as the council says, you know. And Anakin's just like, you know, okay, whatever. And it does its own thing. And one of the clones looks over at their superior officer and goes, I thought we were just like delivering some supplies or something. And then the one guy looks over, he's like, kid, when you're working with General Skywalker, you're always on the offensive. It's something like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, as the show goes on, it's like, you know, it's like so recognizable. Everything he does is just headstrong into battle. And it comes up later on in the show. His tactics are very recognizable for being super heavy on the offensive, and even if you play Battlefront 2, one of his abilities is called Steamroll, and every single battle droid that you cut down rewards your health or something. There's something about,
oh my gosh,
it's like, it's very apparent that like Anakin is a force to be reckoned with. Like, you know, he is headstrong out there. It really resonates with Vader as a character as well. Like, he's the same. There's so many connections between Anakin and Vader, and you know, that's what I love about the character. And you know, I just like, it saddens me to know that there's people out there that don't think the way we do. But I hope if there's any listeners that are listening to us right now that you know, taking away something from this conversation, because it's such a rich character. Like, you know, Anakin, Vader, same guy. Can't have one without the other. There isn't one without the other. I know a lot of people have been like, "Oh, your favorite character is Anakin." Pfft. Like, I'm like your favorite character is Darth Vader. That's the same thing.
They're the same character.
It's the same character. Yeah.
Like I love Darth Vader, and I really don't like hate on Anakin's character like that much or whatever. I mean, there's plenty of moments in the
there's some questionable moments of the portrayal, for sure. Some people have issues.
There's always. I mean, it's like any movie. I can always go into any movie, even my favorite movie in the world. I can go into any movie and find bits and pieces in it where I'm kind of like, I could, you know, wasn't a fan of that. Could change that. This isn't great. I mean, I don't think there's ever really been a perfect movie or anything like that. There's always something you can find wrong with it. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like Vader, like, is such a rich character.
And Hayden's character. Hayden had had a task to do. Like, he had quite the job. I mean, if someone said to you, would you be able to play a young version of Darth Vader? You know, like, it's like, okay, how would you do that? Like, the guy's got no emotion. Like, I mean,
just the fact that you and I are able to have like such an in-depth conversation about like Vader and Anakin's character and like the lifelong transition of this character is a pretty solid testament to how well they've done with this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, really, like, you could nitpick plenty of things, but at the end of the day, he did a pretty good job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. I've always been on the, you know, the pro Hayden fence, and so, you know, yeah, would love to beat that guy someday. And he's from around here, so.
Oh, no way! I didn't even know
exactly.
that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's great. But
cool.
Anyway, so that's all the time we got for today. But we will have you on very soon for the next Mandalorian.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Thanks for coming back.
Super fun. Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you so much, Reid, for coming back on Star Wars Escape Pod and chatting with me all about Vader Immortal Episode 3. That was a super fun conclusion to this VR trilogy. I'm really looking forward to what comes next because, you know, we didn't chat about this, but the story that you live through this trilogy as this pilot of this ship, you know, it really goes unresolved. And this whole story takes place before, you know, A New Hope and Rogue One. So, you know, naturally, you know, I think, okay, they're off to find this treasure map, or whatever's behind this treasure map that they, you know, find. It's a loose end. It's a loose end that needs to be resolved in a future story, book, comic, whatever it is. If it's a comic, it would be interesting to see what the character actually looks like. But because you play as this pilot, you know, it's not like we've even heard the voice of this character either. So, you know, it's a very interesting situation that we've been put in, and I can only expect them to announce another VR series in the future that follows up this story with a sequel trilogy, maybe, of VR games. So, always hoping for a follow-up to this, and you know, some features that we've been talking about that would be really cool to see. Would be awesome to have in future updates for the existing games and future games to come. So, other than that, thanks again for listening. I'm your host, Josh. May the Force be with you.